landscape ecologist for the Sisters of St. Joseph in Brentwood. Amanda is a Long Island native who earned a bachelor's degree from SUNY ESF and went on to earn a master's of public administration at City University of New York. Amanda has experience working at land trusts to preserve and protect wild places, and her career path also included a role as executive director of Friends of Hempstead Plains. So Amanda, if you're ready, you can take over. Thanks.
Yeah, hey everyone. Yeah, quick shout out to Hempstead Plains. So nice to hear all the great stuff going on there. And Rob, thank you for that presentation and everything you were just saying about the future of our forests. And as I'll get into a little bit in my updates here, at the Sisters of St. Joseph, we have a pine barrens type habitat, but it's not much of a barrens at all. It's very dense in a lot of spots. So thinking about how do we do long-term management there and manage the resiliency. So, but for those of you who don't know, LIISMA and LIMPI actually have their offices at the Sisters of St. Joseph 200-acre campus in Brentwood. So it's been, a shame in the last couple of years of COVID not being able to have these meetings there in person, because it's such a wonderful opportunity to bring people to the campus and to get all these expert eyes on the ground, which has been super helpful to us over the years. My role there as landscape ecologist is, it's one of those things you kind of make up as you go, right? Anything on the 200 acres that has anything to do with ecology, that's my purview. So there it is. So this is a map of the campus just to give you a quick overview, and I'm going to do some general project updates and then kind of talk about the Viburnum survey that we've been doing through the LIISMA subcontract. So there's all the buildings that have schools and office space and nonprofit leasing space, and we've 28 acres of organic farmland. And today I'm just going to kind of run through a few different projects we've been doing in different avenues here. Oh, and I wanted to mention the campus is open to the public, dawn to dusk every day. So if you want to come and just enjoy a nice walk outside, please do that. And if you want, you can email me beforehand. I'll probably be around. I'll give you a tour. Yeah, and so we have made some additions to our grasslands. For many years, we had maybe 50 of our 200 acres was lawn. It had been agricultural for a long time, and the Sisters of St. Joseph historically had farmed it themselves. And there's some great old pictures of the sisters back when they were wearing habits still and taking care of the sheep and cattle in the field. But since then, as that population has aged, like so much of Long Island, these big estates just became lawn. So we've been working to add wildflower meadows and just reduce the amount of mowing and poor habitat. So in 2017, we put in a 3-acre meadow using a Truax seed drill. So I'd be happy if anybody is looking to start up meadows. I have a great little write-up on the way we went through that. And it was so successful that we actually had a family that wanted to make a donation to add in 4 more acres. So that's always the great thing. You do what's effectively a pilot project, and then people get excited and we're able to add on. So we have been working on that, and you can see in this, the left-hand image, the top sort of section of meadow was the first one, and the bottom 2 are the new 4 acres. And we did, it feels like so long ago now, but right in the beginning of 2021, we did a tree planting. A corporate group contacted us and wanted to plant 200 trees and shrubs and help, pay for them and come out and have a couple of days of corporate volunteering and helping us plant them. So that was really wonderful. And basically we used it as an opportunity to extend this forested edge. So right next to the forest, there's, a little bit of space between that and the roadway, and it's something that's mowed for really no good reason. And we were able to, in 2 days, plant these 200 trees and shrubs, mimicking the species that are found in the forest there. And they've taken really well. We had great survivorship, even though we watered them, watered them once. They were mostly 2-gallon pots, and then just let them go. Like some people were mentioning, we did have some really wet times at the late summer, so I think that helped us out. And yeah, looking forward to doing the same thing again this spring and just adding to it. And part of what
So it's just kind of going over a little bit of this great tree planting project we were able to do, planting 200 trees and shrubs. And we're going to do the same thing this coming spring. So I'm really excited to see that. And using it as an opportunity to watch the natural regeneration in the area as well, coming from one of the better sections of our Pine Barrens woodland there. And it was interesting to see which species did really well. It was interesting, and I wonder if anyone on this call will have any thoughts on the fact that our white pines that we planted did great. Most of them grew at least 18 inches in the first year, and then a lot of the pitch pines kind of struggled. So I have a lot of different theories about why that might be, but maybe there's somebody out there who actually knows something about it and wants to share at the end of the presentation. Another thing we've been doing on campus is updating gardens. So yeah, there's just a lot of these places. I'm sure that picture on the left looks familiar to a lot of you in the sense that just the thick English ivy all over the ground, all over trees, and then you dig into it and there's a multiflora rose and barberry and burning bush and all kinds of other things. So we were able to rip all of that out, and then under it we found this little stone wall that looks like offcuts from different pieces of marble and granite and things from the buildings. So there's a little bit of a historical feel in the garden. And this is the front of the convent at the Sisters of St. Joseph. And you can sort of see in the picture on the right, there's in the background behind that tree in the middle, there's the one ramp that comes out of the front of the convent. So that's the only way that people who have mobility difficulties can really get out into some of the gardens and things on campus. So we put this bluestone dust path in for access. So that's been working really well. It's permeable, so the rain drains right through it, but it's stable enough for walkers, wheelchairs, that kind of thing. And just being able to show people that you can have a really beautiful, even formal space with native plants is something that, I think is important. And another picture of those gardens. And in the middle there, the spicebush swallowtail caterpillar, which I was really excited about, just seeing those host plants and how wonderful that can be and being able to highlight that for people. Another big project that wrapped up the beginning of this past year was the New York State Green Innovation Grant, and they were giving out money for stormwater management. We have this long strip of buildings that you saw in the first image, the first map, and we have taken it and regraded the center of the road and pitched it so that it goes into these permeable asphalt parking stalls. So you can sort of see the transition in both images between the traditional asphalt and the permeable asphalt. So I've been seeing this pop up more around Long Island and New York State because the state is putting a lot of money into doing porous asphalt projects. It's way more expensive than the traditional asphalt, but it lasts longer. And obviously the idea is it drains. Basically, they've taken out those small particulates from the traditional asphalt and it leaves little gaps. But you have to dig a lot deeper to put in layers of bluestone and things like that so that the water can actually drain down into somewhere. And it has to be kept relatively clean, be vacuumed once a year so that you're not getting debris build up in there. So that's been interesting. And I've talked to a few other places like Planting Fields also has their newish parking area has porous asphalt, and they've also been working with trying to figure out the best way to manage and maintain it. But there's all, as part of this grant, we also did permeable pavers, which you can see the bricks there. And basically the bricks, just, you know, any paver where you have space between the pavers and the water can infiltrate. And we included a lot of rain gardens, including little pocket rain gardens like the one on the right, sort of between the parking stalls, to just get any extra water in there, and being able to just plant it with little blue stem grass and oaks. And it's worked out really, really nicely. So just still touching on that last little bit before I jump to the constructed treatment wetland, you can see in the map there in front of, or to the sort of southwest of all the buildings there, that whole roadway has now been redone, and you can see this aerials from right after the construction. So you can see when those brick permeable paver areas where those went in and all of that. So there's lots happening on the campus. And one of the big projects that just sort of finished up in the fall was our constructed treatment wetland. So originally, the waste treatment system we had was just the septic tank and 52 leaching pools, which is just a huge system. It was very old, and servicing all the buildings highlighted in yellow there. And we hired Cameron Engineering to do a feasibility study and just sort of start by telling us what, you know, we're producing a lot of waste here, and what is that doing to our groundwater? What is our discharge like? So starting out at really high nitrogen levels. Of course, there's other things in our wastewater too, and pretty much everybody's wastewater. It's pharmaceuticals, personal care products, paint, solvents, cleaners, all of that kind of stuff that is just going down into, in our case, the Magothy Aquifer. And so what we decided was our best option for treating the water on the main, for the main buildings there on campus, is a constructed treatment wetland. And I'll show some pictures of it in a moment. But it is the first industrial sized one on Long Island. There's some that are little sort of smaller ones for kind of a home scale, but this is obviously servicing quite a lot of people. There's people who live in those buildings as well as working there. So it's a big multi-use complex. Some of the benefits of the constructed treatment wetland type is it's low energy and operational costs, but it can be a little difficult to adjust and control. That's why we have RU as our advisor, and their engineering firm has basically put together this whole project for us. There's also, because it's basically a wetland, the treatment kind of drops off in the winter, but if you have the land for it, it can be really beautiful, and it's wonderful habitat. So this is a quick aerial of it as it was going in this fall. And basically you can see the sort of two black squares at the top there above our solar array, which kind of may help you a little bit for scale. And there's sort of the water comes down from the north to a pump station and settling tank. And then the liquid waste that still has all that nitrogen and everything in it gets pumped through the wetland. This image is before these wetland cells were filled with wood chips and gravel and all of that, and the vegetation. And you can also sort of see between those cells and the solar array, that's where the leaching field is, and all the 52 covers for, you know, one for each leaching pool. So this has a 30,000 gallon per day capacity, which is kind of the, you know, can service the whole campus. And basically it's what it sounds like. It's a constructed wetland. You line the basins with the geotextile, and then it's filled with different layers of wood chips and gravel. And then there's pipe work, which is bringing the effluent in, but also providing aeration. So, and the way we have ours set up, it's gravel on top, such that the water level is kept below the level of the gravel, so that we don't have mosquito issues. There's no standing water. But there's sometimes little kind of, pockets of water, and it was interesting to see sandpipers and things all of a sudden visiting the campus. So this is it just after planting. You can sort of see the tiny little plugs in there um, of the rush and sedges and blue flag iris and all of that. And so I'm excited to see what happens in the spring as everything really sets in and grows. We got this all in kind of last possible second in the fall, and then yeah, hope as the plants grow, they'll be able to absorb more of the nutrients, more of the nitrogen, and clean the water better. So basically, what's neat about this wetland system is you're keeping all the other aspects of your waste treatment, but you're adding in the natural system of a wetland. And you can see the pipes going in the foreground of the image. That does the aeration, and that just helps the plants in that section, helps everything and the bacteria get enough oxygen to manage the biological oxygen demand, which is that BOD on the little right chart there, showing where we started with our levels for total suspended solids, for biological oxygen demand, for ammonia, and how significantly we can reduce it through this wetland. And we'll be able to test our plan in the spring. We'll test the water on the way in and the way out before it reaches the leaching pools, and be able to see how well we're doing and adjust the system as needed. So this has been really exciting, and I'm even more excited to see it as it develops, but it kind of doesn't look quite like much habitat yet, but I swear as the day after they planted, I saw a monarch laying eggs on the little bit of swamp milkweed that was in there. So I was pretty excited to see that it really is functioning for habitat pretty immediately as well. And I wanted to talk a little bit about just our overall habitat management. So we have, if you count every little bit, there's about 70 acres of forest on the campus, although a lot of it, about half of it is sort of successional forest and half of it is higher quality pine barrens type forest. And part of what I'm doing is mapping, all the quality areas, the areas where there's no invasives and often good indicator species. So you can see in white, particularly that north section there, there's basically there's no invasives there except little asterisks, some invasive viburnums, which I'm going to get to next. But it's important for us to look at those areas and keep our good areas in good shape, remove invasives and expand those areas, document the wildlife in there, and connecting to our broader community in Brentwood. So we've been having more projects where we're trying to kind of create community forests, bring people in to help with management and to help kind of make decisions there and have a stake in this forest, which has been sort of this campus has been a de facto preserve for Brentwood, which is in serious need of more green space. So proud to be able to have this as a refuge for people, particularly during COVID when people needed to get outside and just be able to take a walk in someplace beautiful and sort of forget their troubles for a little bit. It was wonderful to have this place available. So as I mentioned, one of our big concerns right now is invasive viburnums, and we were lucky to get a subcontract from LIISMA to help survey these and study how we can best manage them. There are a number of different viburnums. We have a few native species that occur in our woodlands here. That's dentatum, prunifolium, and acerifolium. But we're also seeing a lot of T viburnum and linden viburnum, and that's particularly in areas where there's been cutting from southern pine beetle. So as we're managing one invasive, we have a new one coming in. So we're hitting that treadmill a little bit, but I think if this is a good opportunity to study it and be aware of it. So this map is showing some of the surveying we just started doing this fall in that big southern section of forest, showing the linden viburnum and tea viburnum. And it's really concentrated a lot in areas where we were cutting for southern pine beetle. And it's most difficult to manage in those areas because you have a lot of fallen logs, a lot of poison ivy coming in. And it's, as you'll see in the next slide, it's not that easy to pull out a lot of the time. Oh, no, we're going to talk about, sorry, a little bit more identification stuff. So because there's so many different viburnums, where it definitely is worth kind of reviewing the different species to get a good eye for them. But these are the two invasive ones that we've been seeing in our woodland, the linden viburnum and tea viburnum. They do hold their leaves and berries pretty late into the fall, so we were able to do some identification pretty late in the season. And so the left image there, if you can kind of see, there is a viburnum that I pulled up that's, maybe 4 or 5 feet tall, really skinny, like a 1/2 inch diameter little trunk. But on the right side, there's all that soil that got ripped up in the process of pulling that little sapling up. So it seems like anything that size or bigger, you wind up creating a lot of disturbance ripping that up. So I've been sort of hesitant to choose that as a management tactic for things that are larger. Sometimes, under a bigger shrub, you'll see a whole bunch of little seedlings coming up, and that's easy to pull. But some of these bigger ones, it seems like cutting and treating might be the best option, cutting and painting herbicide on the stump. And one little sort of, we all do these little experiments in the field, like, let's try this out and see. So in 2020, there was a fair amount of just cutting them to the base, mostly because there wasn't time or have the people with the right certifications to be able to do herbicide treatment. We're all resource limited. But we found that if you just cut it at the base, you definitely eliminate the seed production for the next year. The downside is viburnum sucker, and you get a lot of, you do get new growth. I found in shadier areas that new growth wasn't too bad, it was pretty slow. But from the areas where it's sunny, like on this right image where there's been a lot of pitch pines dying and trees being cut from southern pine beetle, and you have this situation where not only were the viburnums often kind of cut to the ground or pinned by these trees that fell, but you're getting all this suckering. You can't get to the root base because there's something on top of it. And you have 1,000 little stems coming up in a pretty small area. So it definitely creates some treatment challenges. So our plan for 2022 is doing cutting and treating, replanting, particularly with native viburnums that are already occurring in the woodland, and continuing to survey for regrowth. Another little thing I wanted to bring up was, with anything with any genus that's so species diverse, you always worry about hybridization. So I've been wondering, and I wonder if anyone else has information on this, could these invasive viburnums be hybridizing with the native ones? And as we were out there surveying, we did see some viburnum that was clearly a hybrid between Acerfolium and some other unknown viburnum. So I'm interested to find out a little bit more about that and see how that would affect, for example, the nutrition of the berries, which we've been, LIISMA the LIISMA team and I have been doing some research into that, and it seems like there's evidence out there in the literature for the berries and the non-native viburnums being not as nutritionally valuable to our local birds, particularly with their migration cycles. You need to have the right fat sugar content at the right times, and that, unsurprisingly, the native ones are superior. So that is my kind of spiel on our projects and little update and teaser sort of on the viburnum work. And I see that there's some things popping up in the chat. So, okay.
Well, thank you, Amanda. We can
sure
help you read the
thing.
chat too.
Yeah, that'd be
Thank you.
great.
I wanted to say a couple, I wanted to compliment your work. The work that you're doing there and the Sisters of St. Joseph, probably one of the most significant private projects with public funding on Long Island, right? Given the solar array, isn't that one of the largest private solar arrays?
Yeah, it's one of the largest, and I think it's the largest one that is a power sharing agreement. So,
Right.
meaning that if we produce more energy than we can use, the savings can go to the local community, which I'm hoping we might actually be able to accomplish in the next few years. But
And
credit to my boss, Sister Karen Burke, and to the rest of the Sisters of St. Joseph. Talk about a really progressive group of women dedicated to not just environmental issues, but social justice and really engaged in the community there. So, can't say enough good things about them.
hats off to Sister Karen.
Yeah,
And also
really.
you have the wetland, the constructed treatment wetland, the forest there. There will be an easement on it or a conservation easement, or there is one. What's the status with the conservation easement on the
It's been
forest?
so we have been working with the DEC to get that, but we're just
Okay.
kind of in the last little bits. Because of COVID, we needed to reappraise the land because land
Yeah,
prices
all right.
shot up. So we're the last little home
So
stretch there.
still in the works. And
Still in
that's
the
an
works.
interesting forest because it doesn't have deer overbrowse. Although it's an island in Brentwood, there's really no deer in there. Or I think one deer was spotted a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's right. We're really lucky to not have deer, knock on wood. We're about to put in a big fence around the property for other security reasons, and I'm hoping that that's also going to be a deer security fence, because we have some lovely native ground covers, and it just seems like there's an opportunity for the forest to regenerate in really great ways, and there are spots where we sort of stop mowing and all of a sudden 12 years later a woodland pops up. So I think there's a real opportunity there because of the lack of deer pressure.
All right. So let's see what questions we have in the chat. Someone asked about invasive viburnum ID. Steve Young gave a link to a good key that's
Excellent.
available online. And also I can add that our LIISMA temporary graphic designer and environmental educators, one of their first projects will be to help to develop a local Long Island key for invasive species.
Great.
I'm sorry, invasive viburnums. That will be one of the first projects. Any
Yeah.
other questions or comments?
I wonder if anybody else has been seeing viburnums on their properties, if they're just seeing maybe a little bit here and there, or if they're seeing the kind of it's too bad I couldn't get a good image of some of the stands we're seeing where there's just thousands of suckers coming up. But yeah, I wonder if anyone else is seeing that.
We've seen some large stands. Yeah, at several different sites. Linden viburnum,
Mm-hmm.
some T viburnum also. We're seeing a lot of viburnums around.
Yep, once you start seeing it, can't stop seeing it, huh?
And yeah, and there's one stand. It's like a pretty good sized stand of like solid viburnum. Right? Where was that? Abby, you were there. That was at in Polly when we were with Polly.
There's a stand in Warbler Woods.
Warbler Woods, that's
off
it.
of
Yeah,
CR 21. And there's also a large stand of linden viburnum that is on the north side of Sunrise Highway, just before the Hampton Bays cloverleaf that was planted in the DOT sump, and then it's spreading into the right of way under the power lines and over and across into Sears Bellows County Park, and then jumping the highway on the south side and encroaching there as well.
And we found perhaps new invasions of viburnums at Sayville Grassland too, Sayville Fish and Wildlife Refuge. no huge stands yet, but it could turn into that. But, and we're seeing them basically all around Long Island, just about anywhere we go.
Yep, seems to be the case. Hopefully we can get some good information on management and promote. I mean, our native viburnums are lovely. I would love to see some of those get into the landscaping trade a little bit more.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because we see the invasive viburnums growing with the native viburnums in the exact same location and probably crowding them out.
Yep, that's, anecdotally what we were seeing as, Haley and Abby and I were walking through the Brentwood woods and seeing them right next to each other. So,
Yep. They compete for the same habitat, it looks like.
absolutely.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, viburnum leaf beetle. Have we seen viburnum leaf beetles on the non-natives?
I don't know.
I have not seen any shot holes in the non-natives.
Neither have I, no.
We'll keep an eye out though. And I think that's it for you, Amanda.
All right, thank you.
Thank
all.
you. Keep up the great work. So I will share my screen again and we'll close out the meeting. We'll see a few dates. Just let me, a few final date reminders. Again, the symposium is April 7th. And you can get in touch with us for information about how to register. And we'll be sending out information about how to register for that. The next LIISMA partners meeting will be in May 20th. Hopefully the weather will be significantly warmer by then. And then there's the annual questionnaire that the staff needs to fill out the report for the DEC. So if you have that or need it, get in touch with us. Any other business? Any other questions before we depart? We want to thank everyone for coming. We had a good turnout. We had something like 44 people at the business part of the meeting, which was good. Any other, whoops, yeah, my screen is going blank. Any other questions or comments? If not, then we can adjourn. You feel free to email us at any time. And also, if you have education and outreach needs, we've already chatted a little bit about a viburnum ID for Long Island, but we can produce other invasive species related educational materials if you have any ideas. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Have a nice weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much. Glad to see everyone here.
Thanks, Bill and company.
Thank you.
Be well.
You too.